Today on the Metal Roofing Channel, we are talking about asphalt shingles versus metal shingles. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Metal Roofing Channel and welcome to Q&A Mondays. All the questions we're going to be talking about today are in the description below, and please consider subscribing if you are new here. We talk about the architectural metal industry every Monday and Wednesday. Love to have you join us. Today we have Todd Miller from Isaiah Industries. Todd, thanks so much for being back on the channel today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Looking forward to our subject today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be talking about asphalt shingles versus metal shingles, as we mentioned. Adam Mazzella is back as well. So first of all, let's start with some obvious things. Let's talk about the differences and similarities in the look between metal shingles and asphalt shingles.
Sure. I think a lot of times when a homeowner hits that point where, gosh, I need to buy a new roof, and it's kind of like going to the dentist. You really don't want to have to do it. But they're looking for a product that really is going to match their home and look great and continue with the aesthetics and the curb appeal of their home in a lot of cases. And so I think jumping into the metal shingle genre, where we've got products that look like asphalt shingles or that look like higher end shake or slate or tile type products, I think that's more of a natural for them sometimes for that consumer, and not quite as dramatic of a change as going to a vertical seam product. So they're just tired of the short life of asphalt shingles, but they're not necessarily totally against the look of them.
Yeah.
But they want something that's going to perform better.
Right, and I can kind of see along the same lines when everyone in their neighborhood has asphalt shingles and maybe
Sure.
they don't want to stand out too much. They can go look at metal shingles as maybe an alternative for that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we'll often talk about as they go through that process of considering what their next roof is going to be is that asphalt shingles have what I call two lives. They have what I call a functional or a technical life. And that functional life may be 15 years. It may even be 20 years if they're lucky and they get a good batch and they don't live in a horribly, harsh environment. But the aesthetic life is an entirely different life, and that's the other life of asphalt shingles. So you got functional, you got aesthetic. And the problem with the aesthetic life is that, especially as we've seen more limestone and fillers coming into the asphalt shingles, we see that they are more prone to growing, what's really a form of algae, those horrible black streaks that everyone sees running down their roofs. And homeowners hate those because it suddenly makes their new roof look old.
Right.
And it takes away from the curb appeal of their home. And everyone knows one of the things, whenever, we've all done this too, whenever you go to buy a house, suddenly everyone is a roofing expert. And they look up there and they see streaks and stains on the roof, and the first thing they say is, oh, that roof's going to have to be replaced. We're going to have to talk about that when we talk about price. And so you've got these two lives of asphalt shingles, but metal shingles, on the other hand, have both a very, very long-term functional life, but they also maintain their good looks and their beauty as well.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction, the longevity and the lifespan between the two products.
Sure. So, of course, I've got a metal shingle in my house, but my roof was put on in 1996. And 2 summers ago, my wife was out front with the dogs one Saturday morning and had someone drive by and stopped and asked her, said, when'd you put the new roof on? Well, that roof was like 22 years old at that point. Was someone who obviously hadn't been past her house before, wasn't familiar with it. But they were convinced it was a new roof.
That's
so
awesome,
that shows that difference in the aesthetic and the functional lives of metal versus asphalt.
So when we're talking about a metal shingle type product, what cost differences do we see between asphalt shingles?
Sure. So usually what I will tell homeowners is that they can expect a quality metal shingle roof to run any place from 2 to 3 times the cost of a quality asphalt shingle roof. And so a lot of times what folks will ask me is, who typically buys a metal shingle roof? And they expect me to come back and say, well, it's someone who's 57 years, 3 months and 4 days old. They've got 2 kids that are adult. They're an empty nester. That's what they expect to hear me say. But in the reality, who buys these roofs is that homeowner who intends to stay in that house until they die. At least 10 to 15 years or more. And those homeowners may be in their 20s, they may be in their 30s, they may be in their 80s. But they're basically saying, I want to invest in the house, invest in a roof in a way that I won't have to redo in a few years because I'm here for the long haul.
So when you have a neighborhood that's predominantly asphalt shingle and somebody wants metal, they want a longer term solution, and they have an HOA, do you guys run into issues when you're going with this? Because I know we do on the standing seam side.
Sure. Obviously, we've all heard those stories with metal roofs. Typically on the metal shingles, we've had really good success getting HOA approval. And a lot of times it really does come in helping them realize and understand, okay, what types of metal roofs are we comfortable with in our neighborhood? What types of roofs do we think will add beauty to our homes, will add value to our homes and to our neighborhood? And, maybe on the other hand, what metal roofs may we not be comfortable with, usually purely from an aesthetic standpoint. And so then they start talking about gloss or maybe profile and things. But I remember one situation, and this was down on Hilton Head Island before there were any metal roofs there. And now Hilton Head has a lot of metal roofs. But a homeowner really wanted a metal shingle roof. And his HOA said no. He lived in, I think it was Sea Pines. And they said, no, you can't have it. And he said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my garage. He had a separate garage from his house. He said, I'm going to put a temporary installation of a metal shingle on my garage. And then I'm going to survey all my neighbors and see what they think of it. So he did that. And by temporary, it meant he put it on with screws instead of nails. I can take it off if I have to. And then he surveyed all of his neighbors, and they all were like, this is amazing. This is exactly what we need. And I would say within 6 months after that, every plantation on the island had approved metal roofs at that point. So yeah, we've had good luck. I remember another community, Bella Vista, Arkansas. They had a no metal roof policy. And a homeowner who was a bit of a rogue, he went ahead and put a metal roof on. And of course, the HOA threw a fit and wasn't happy with it at all. I went down, talked with him, spent time, and finally I said, why don't you guys just go out and look at it? So finally they went out and looked at it rather than just looking at pieces of paper saying, this guy put on a metal roof and he shouldn't have done that. They went out and looked at it and they were all like, this is amazing. This is absolutely what our neighborhood needs.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a lot of times seeing is believing.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you just got to work through that process. And I know that, anyone in the metal shingle industry, ourselves included, have worked with a lot of HOAs over the years with good success.
Let's talk about weather a little bit. When, we have wind, rain, extreme weather, talk to me about the differences between an asphalt shingle system and a metal shingle system.
Sure. One of the things that, and this is always sometimes a hard reality to face, but when you look at most roofing products, be it asphalt or tile or wood shakes or slate, they're really held in place by gravity. There's not a whole lot of holding that product on that roof except gravity. You have got underlying fasteners spaced apart, but other than that, it's gravity. Even asphalt shingles, people think that there's adhesives in there holding the tabs down, and really that isn't so much the case. There are some, but it's really gravity that holds it all together. And so, one of the things that I often do is I'll take a stack of business cards and I'll fan them out and liken those business cards to the tabs of an asphalt shingle, and homeowners can see, there's not much holding that down, is there? Versus a metal shingle. Something like this and many other products on the market has interlocks on all four sides, 2 upturned interlocks, 2 downturned interlocks. So when the panels go on the roof, they actually mechanically are attached and fastened to each other. And so it just makes a huge difference in terms of the overall wind resistance, durability. One of the things we see with asphalt shingles is those tabs start to curl up over time. Well, it can't do that if it's attached to the next one.
Right.
And so it's a very, very different concept for homeowners to help them understand, similar look, but very different performance.
So when we're talking about weather, one of the questions that we get a lot, and I'm sure you do as well, is can you hear rain on a metal roof? Is it different from a asphalt shingle roof? What's the sound difference like?
Sure, good question. And yeah, talking as an old timer, I've heard this question a few times.
Yeah.
One of the things that we often tell folks is that as long as you've got normal construction, and by that I mean an attic and attic insulation and things like that, we never get any noise complaints at all. Now, if you're standing near an open window, if you happen to be standing in your garage and the garage door's up, do you get a little bit different sound? You do. But it's not, one of the things that happens with metal shingles is we've done so much forming of the metal that really breaks up the soundboard effect. So you get a much softer sound off of it. We also, so over the years, I think I remember 2 noise complaints. Homeowners that called me, they put up a roof and they weren't happy with the noise. Both situations ended up being, they were concerned about their master bedroom and sleeping.
Yep.
And both situations happen to be what I call California construction. No attic space, no insulation, cathedral. They literally laid in bed and looked up at the underside of their roof deck. And so in both of those situations, we actually went in over the master bedroom, took the roof off, and then put down some sound deadening insulation and put the roof panels back on top of it. Generally speaking, I don't see a real reason for insulation on the rooftop on most residential applications. Insulation, the better place to do that is down on top of your ceilings where it has more effect. But in this case, we did use it up on the roof deck for sound deadening, and homeowners were happy after that.
Yeah, and you said that was very rare, a couple times in your experience. And that's
40
it.
years.
Yeah.
So Todd, you mentioned that you took that roof off and installed the insulation and then put that roof back on. You know, that's obviously not something you can do with a shingle roof. How easily, if there's a scratch, a dent, something like that, can somebody, a qualified contractor come in and replace a panel or adjust things on the roof as necessary?
Certainly in both those situations, the goal was to take the panels off, stack them on the ground, and then reinstall the exact same panels, and that was what they did. I'm sure that someplace in the midst of that, there were some panels that got scratched, and so they said, I don't want to use this one, and they would have just substitute a new panel.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely in a case like that, very different than asphalt shingles. You certainly aren't going to take those off and reinstall them.
Yeah.
But in that case, yes, they would reinstall the same panels.
Okay.
You mentioned insulation sometimes, or a foam insert on the underside of panels. Is that going to make a difference with rain noise as well?
It's a good question, Thad. So we do offer, especially on the higher profile products, some of our competitors do this as well, a high density EPS foam insert that is actually contoured to fit the cavity underneath the panels. And that will help some with sound deadening. I probably would look for something, if I was really after sound deadening in one of those extremely odd situations, I would look for something that would give me full roof coverage.
Sure.
A lot of times, though, the inserts are used if there's roof areas where a homeowner knows they may be up on the roof to walk, clean a chimney, wash dormer windows, put up Christmas lights. Then sometimes those inserts will be smart in those areas to give them some nice walk areas. Nice thing about any metal roof, and we all know this from vertical seam panels as well, they walk the same in 30, 40, 50 years as they do when they're new. And anyone who's tried walking an older tile roof or an asphalt shingle roof or a slate roof or a wood shingle roof, they know that when that roof is 15, 20 years old, it doesn't walk so good anymore. But a metal roof is going to walk the same as it ages as it does when it's brand new.
Yeah, great point.
Significant benefit.
So Todd, when you're talking about a homeowner caring for a roof, how am I going to make sure it looks great over time? I know, you mentioned as an asphalt shingle roof ages, you might start getting those black streaks, you might start getting some algae growth on there. That's not going to happen on this roof, but how do you care for it? How do you clean it? Things like that.
Sure. I think like any roof, periodically, and a lot of times homeowners do this in the spring, they just walk around their house and say, what happened this past winter? I'm going to have to take care of this year. And you're always looking at the roof. And a lot of times with asphalt shingles, I just had a homeowner call me yesterday. He said, I had a few tabs come off over the winter, Todd. What am I going to do about that? Was with an asphalt roof. And so a lot of times that does involve doing some maintenance on the asphalt roof. Typically on metal roofs, usually there really isn't anything. That doesn't mean you aren't taking a look at it, make sure that nothing's changed, make sure you haven't had, a tree branch that fell on the roof that might have caused something or dislodged something. My particular roof, and which has been on my home since 1996, It has only had someone on that roof 2 times in, 24 years. One time we did some remodeling and I took a chimney out, and so I had to have people up on the roof to pull the chimney out and patch the roof back in, and can't even tell where it was done. And I had someone up there once to put a little Sirius XM radio antenna up on my roof. And it was funny. I looked up and saw the antenna. I was like, how did that get there? And I called him. I said, were you on the roof? He said, yeah. I was like, wow, you did a good job. But, usually you just want to, like anything as a homeowner, you kind of keep an eye on stuff. But gosh, I haven't really ever had anyone that has had any routine maintenance they've had to do.
So let's switch gears here and let's talk about installation and what it means for a contractor maybe. Talk to me about the differences between installing asphalt shingles and metal shingles.
Sure. So let's say a contractor does residential roofing. He does a lot of asphalt shingles and he says, gosh, I think I'd like to add metal or metal shingles maybe to my product offerings. My general advice usually is look for a different crew. Metal shingles take a lot more finesse, which means it takes more time. And, we have a number of things such as speed trims and different things to help speed that process up. But you still don't necessarily want an installer who feels really driven by the clock. I've got to get this done. I've got to make production. I've got to get this done in a certain amount of time. And, the reality is, as competitive as the asphalt shingle industry is, that's how most of those guys operate. They make money off of doing things faster. And so your metal installer, you want to be someone that doesn't feel driven by that they're more driven by doing a good job and taking care of things properly. One of the things that, a lot of times when you're putting on an asphalt shingle roof and you come to a difficult area, let's say maybe alongside a dorm or those little areas that tuck up in there, or a skylight or a chimney, and you come to this difficult area on the asphalt shingle install, and you basically will throw some sealant or some goop or some mastic at it and bless it and move on, because that sealant or that goop or that mastic will last as long as the shingle will last. Metal, you can't do that. So you've got to have someone that will take the time to flash those properly, and to make sure that all of those roof penetrations are properly protected for the life of the metal roof, not for the life of an asphalt roof.
And that's a great point. I mean, you can't hardly go to any of our roofing industry trade shows and find speed games somewhere. And,
Sure.
And so taking the time, the attention to detail, and really that artisan approach makes a lot of sense. And that's really the same thing in the standing seam world.
And guys who are good, guys who get some experience, still develop speed over time.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not driven by it. That's not how they make their money.
Yeah.
They make their money by doing good jobs and getting satisfied customers.
Yeah.
When it comes to being an installer, what are some considerations when, maybe installing a higher price product like metal shingles versus asphalt shingles?
So I think that one of the things that someone who is getting involved with this product as a contractor needs to really align themselves with a manufacturer or a supplier that can educate them and help them develop how to present the product to homeowners. Several years ago, and I won't mention names, but someone introduced a metal shingle many years ago. I'm the only one in the room who's probably live. But anyway, they introduced a metal shingle, and their thought was that, okay, if I offer a metal shingle and I can get the price to the same point as a top grade asphalt shingle, I don't have to sell it. Homeowners will automatically know the value of metal over asphalt, and they'll buy my product. It didn't work that way at all when he went to market, because what he found was the homeowner still was adopting different technology, new ideas, still had to be sold on it even at the same price. So that contractor who's going to get involved with these products has to know how to present to homeowners. And that's done in a very professional manner where you're doing needs analysis with the homeowner. It's not right for some homeowners. If a homeowner called me today and said, Todd, I am thinking about a metal roof, and I'll ask, well, how long do you intend to stay in your home? And they'll say, I'll probably sell this in about 3 years. I'll say, it's up to you, but I probably wouldn't put a metal roof on if I was you. It probably isn't exactly what you need. My own parents, founder of the company, they had a house that they had built back in the 70s, and they had an asphalt shingle roof they had never replaced. They needed to put a new roof on the house in order to sell it because they were building a new home, which of course has a metal roof on it. And they put asphalt shingles back on the old house because I was like, it just doesn't make sense in that case to put metal on it and to do that kind of an investment. So, you've got to have a contractor that, knows how to work through that with homeowners. And so I suggest get yourself hooked up with a supplier.
Absolutely.
That can teach you and train you.
Yeah, and we definitely recommend that as well. Standing seam metal shingles, the entire market. It's really important to be educated in the right way and be able to install and sell those products in the right way.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to metal shingles, what's the recyclability like versus asphalt shingles?
So the metal itself is 100% recyclable. Typically anything, with the granules and the stones like asphalt shingles and even some non-asphalt products that have similar granules on them, recyclers have a difficult time with those things. There are some areas of the country where there are legitimate recycle programs for asphalt shingles, but they're few and far between, and many people even question the economic viability of them as it is. So yes, these products at the end of their useful life, 100% recyclable.
Yeah, that's great to know. And we've done video on environmentally friendly roofs as well, and we talked about how much material is already recycled content when it comes into our facility.
That's correct. I mean, our products, most of our steel is typically 35% recycled content. Copper is usually around 35, and aluminum is considerably higher. It's usually in the 95% range. And so one of the things I'll often tell homeowners is that, we all haul our recyclables out to the curb. My day is Wednesday, where I have that fun job every morning or every Wednesday morning. But yet, as consumers, what can we really buy that is a major item for our home that closes the recycling loop? Recycling only works if we close the loop. And so I talk a lot about that fact that a metal roof is one item that they can buy for their home, one of the few that really has high recycled content. A little bit in some flooring options out there, but by and large, there's not a lot of things we can do in our homes that has a lot of high recycled content other than a metal roof.
We covered a lot of information in this video, and if you have any questions, please comment down below. We'd love to answer them. And check out the videos in our Stamped Metal Roofing series that we are producing with Todd. Todd, thank you so much for being here on the channel today. Make sure you subscribe to the Metal Roofing channel, and we'll catch you again next time.